Yes, yes. Welcome to the ancient world of tabletop games. I am Agamemnon, from the historical documentary, Time Bandits. This is a report from a fugitive. This is Melissa Seawater, who joins the channel as a collaborator. Admittedly, she's not saying much right now, but that'll change. From the Greek, Melissa is a bee, and here's a honeybee from the game Hive. More of that buzz soon enough. We're here to introduce Tourette syndrome and associated obsessive-compulsive disorder to the world of board games. I've compiled this movie out of 4 videos by Melissa, adding my own comments on the board game side of things. 3 videos in this compilation feature footage shot on her phone, and I've provided a background effect to reflect those phone moments. My video creates a narrative around board gaming with Tourette syndrome and obsessive-compulsive disorder. For that reason, Melissa is sometimes deliberately far removed from the original context. Melissa was involved at the editing stage and had no problems over what I'd done with her video material. I've dropped a bit of swearing into my output to prepare viewers for the prospect of board gaming videos mixed with Tourette syndrome. Around 10% of Tourette sufferers gain the shouty, sweary component of the neurological disorder, and Melissa falls into that 10% category. Fuckers. Obsessive-compulsive disorder manifests in Tourette sufferers at a higher percentage than is the case with coprolalia. We aren't here to ask if someone with Tourette can play board games. The answer is yes. And we're not here to ask if Tourette physical or verbal tics destroy the ability to play board games. We aren't even here to determine whether or not OCD is too disruptive a force in games rife with OCD triggers. If anything, we're here to look at the whole package and to see if we can tailor games to the difficulties faced by cases of Tourette with OCD. Really, though, we're here to see if we can get a story out of a game. If that's a shouty, sweary, ranty story, then it's still a story.
Hi, Melissa. How you doing? Editing going well? Hi. No, okay, that was silly. That was bad. That was horrifying.
Hi, did you know Peter Pan's in his own pants? Hi, he pissed himself. Well, poor Peter Pan.
So I won hamburger. I have words sometimes. Does that work? I've been working on my intro. Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition that is found to be passed on genetically in what we now know are 2 specific rare genes. 90% of people who have Tourette syndrome also have these 2 genes. Hi, I'm a bone. Yeah, I try not to say words. Yeah, it's in heaven. That made so much sense. God. Tourette syndrome manifests as tics. A tic is a semi-voluntary or completely involuntary movement, noise, word, or series of words. In order for the manifestation of tics to be considered Tourette syndrome, a person would need to have at least 2 motor tics and at least 1 vocal.
So, I don't know, like, yeah.
2 people can experience tics very differently. One might tic every few seconds, while the other might not even tic every day.
I ended up, hi, did you say garbage? Motherfucker. So hi.
Tics can be like a fingerprint in that they are different for everyone. Anything that the human body can do or vocalize can be a tic. Tics can be suppressed for a certain amount of time. Just like it's possible to go without breathing for a few seconds or half a minute, we need to breathe. So eventually you need to breathe just like we need to tic. Tourette syndrome may be mistaken for mental illness, though it is not. Tourette syndrome is actually, like autism, neurodevelopmental. The syndrome is often accompanied, however, by mental health comorbidities like OCD, anxiety, impulsivity, executive dysfunction, etc. I am obsessed with the number 7. Is the number 7 perfect? That depends. Is it the answer to something? Maybe if the number 7, 3 plus 4, yeah, it's perfect. But if it's just a random number 7, why is it better than any other number? It's not. It's just my obsession, my personal perception of what needs to be.
Ahoy there, shrimp mates, for it be coffee o'clock of the starboard kitchen, and I spy bounties sailing into port off stormy seas. We be off the shore down in Cape Tourette, and Captain Melissa swears like a sailor. How be she at handling the numbers? This year flotsam is Port Royal, a game about dealing cards and pressing your luck for booty. The more fleets you spy, the more cards you may take into your port, my hearties. But wait a bit. Should 2 vessels sailing under the same flag, you go bust and lose the hand. On your turn you draw cards, and you may stop at any time. Ships provide gold, and hirelings may join your crew for money. The goal is to score victory points on the grey shields printed on your hirelings. Those people provide special abilities too. Here's a very basic turn. You'll pardon me if I don't quote a chapter and verse from the rule book. All we're looking at is the problem of OCD. Melissa has fixations with 3 and 7. Is she stopped in her tracks at 3 cards? Will she obsess over a card that has 3 printed on it? Would she stop drawing cards at 6 and take the bountiful booty? Or is there a pressing need to draw that 7th card? With up to 3 different ships out, a player may hire a worker or take a ship for some gold. At 4 ships, the option is to go after 2 cards. And at 5 ships, 3 cards be up for grabs. Sense tells you to quit while you're ahead, but no one paid sense, no never mind, when pasteboard cards and gambling for spoils come into it. At 6 cards, Melissa could take the ship worth 3 coins and straightaway spend the gold on hiring that sailor. He costs 3 to hire, so perhaps that plays into her OCD. In gaming, we be a-looking to give meaningful choices to decisions to short-circuit the obsessive problem. This game might work in that direction, or bring shipwreck and doom. Time will tell, shrimp mates. Time will tell.
Calling Tourette a mental illness only makes awareness and acceptance more difficult because there's already a lot of stigma attached to mental illness. Tourette syndrome is its own fight, and complicating it with extra stigmas only makes the search for acceptance more difficult. So was it bothering you, or were you really upset by it? Were you so upset by it that you got anxious, that it hurt you, that it made your mind go like... Did it do that? The term is properly used as Tourette and not Tourette's or Tourette's. If a condition is named after someone who experienced the symptoms, then like Lou Gehrig's disease, then it has an S because the condition is possessive to that person. If, in like the case of Tourette, the condition was named after the person who discovered the condition, Gilles de la Tourette, then it has no S. So that was just a little bit of information, some lingo about Tourette syndrome. I hope that was educational. I hope that was interesting. Is it OCD that you did that? I don't know. Let's evaluate.
I was telling someone about my OCD and about the number 3 and the number 7 and how everything has to be in multiplication or addition of some kind of construct of 3 and 7, like 3 times 3, 3 times 3 plus 3, 3 times 7, 7 times 7, numbers that are acceptable according to those base numbers, and if they aren't acceptable according to those specific numbers, then they aren't okay.
It's important not to shy away from numbers, even as someone with OCD is a number obsessive. Numbers are everywhere, after all. In board games, we might let those numbers travel in disguise as icons. Would a choice of game involving more icons, fewer numbers, ease the sheer physical stress of playing a game? You'd like to think so. Age of War deals in numbers, and I don't just mean that so many games resolve winning by turning to a tally of points. However, the numbers are blurred slightly through the inclusion of customized dice. The dice fall as they must. At that point, is an OCD sufferer a prisoner of the dice, or does the collection of symbols provide an avenue for liberation from OCD stress? This game deals in capturing castles for points. It's a set collection game. If you capture all the castles in one colour, you'll score bonus points. Capture is performed by sending your dice to attack a castle. First, muster your army by rolling dice. Then decide which castle to attack. Players are trying to match blocks of dice to symbols on cards, one block at a time. Complete a block and you roll the remaining dice to fill other blocks. If you roll the wrong combination, you lose one die and roll again until you make it or run out of options. Does that make the game unplayable for Melissa with OCD? Or is she guided by the dice into going after limited options? This takes us directly into a board gaming topic. Paralysis by analysis is a time-worn phrase. I first encountered it on reading history about CIA decision-making during the Cold War. You don't dip too far into that gravy without encountering a wilderness of mirrors, which is T.S. Eliot by way of CIA man James Angleton. The word order in paralysis by analysis is reversed in board gaming, analysis paralysis, or AP. This paralysis refers to the inaction of a player who can't make a decision without weighing up all the possibilities and knock-on effects connected to moving this playing piece into the mountains for an instant game bonus or moving that playing piece into the lakes for a delayed bonus. There follows much talk about instant gratification versus long-term strategy. Impatient players recognize that the board game with a manufacturing and trading theme will never have the depth of a game between two chess fiends, say, and they slap down moves with all the speed of a rocket kissing the planet goodbye with a flick of flame tongue from out of its big rockety arse. How to tackle board gaming with Tourette syndrome? Fucking swearily is one answer. That's coprolalia for you. But in cases like this, we aren't considering Tourette directly. We are forced to focus on the major side issue that isn't a side issue. It's so large a problem that it is the main issue. Board games deal in numbers. Games with points for everything are known as point salad games. Even lettuce scores points in those games. The comorbidity Melissa speaks of, obsessive-compulsive disorder, distorts life and runs a battering ram through the glass portcullis representing gameplay. We discussed the problem behind the scenes, and I made purchasing choices rooted in the need to increase Melissa's ability to enjoy a game. Running alongside that was the need to start gameplay videos with introductory games. There's no point creating a channel and slapping down a 10-hour video on tank battles as a starter. Could Melissa play a trading game, a Euro game, with multiple choice at every turn and multiple paths to victory? That means multiple unclear paths, leading to analysis paralysis in players who don't have OCD. That's not the sort of game to try, but we can't eliminate numbers. We can and should and fucking will try to alleviate the fucking stress of dealing with Tourette-linked OCD.
And that was when I really realized there is no point at all. Like, hi, did you say 7? Fucked itself. Hi.
This tile-laying game is about telling a story of 1,000 nights and one night. In the two-player game, 3 is the tallest column allowed. Players deal tiles to the table in columns, enlarging on the story by creating rows. There are a few rules for taking tiles out and replacing them so that the arrangement of numbers in the tiles makes for a better tale. With limited choices, this should focus Melissa's concentration instead of wrecking it. For the record, the first time I played this game, I set the last tile down in the worst possible place and utterly destroyed the tale. Shahrazad wouldn't have lasted the first of those many nights. Luckily, the game is played in 2 parts, and I managed to turn utter disaster into minor catastrophe in the second half, for all the difference that made.
There's no point to 3 and 7 unless it's actually a necessary mathematical equation. If you're doing something, you're counting Smarties for your kid's snack or something, I don't know, like something related to some valid mathematical equation.
Brothers is a tile-laying game devoid of numbers. If any number features, it's the number 3, but the rival brothers are trying to herd different-shaped collections of 3s into this meadow. Of the games I'm going to feature on the channel, this is one that I bought solely with Melissa in mind. It's a small game, quick to set up, quick to put away, has hardly any rules, is easy to teach and easy to learn, with minimal fixation on numbers. Hive is an abstract strategy game. Surround the queen bee to win. I know at least one person with arachnophobia, and should she ever stray onto the channel, she won't find any spidery imagery here. I'll flip the spider pieces over for those games and give an arachnophobia warning for anyone thinking of buying the game. Symbols are connected to numbers. This is a tile-laying game with chess-like features. Once the queen is in play, hive pieces may move around. That's where a few numbers come in, but taking an abstract game and softening the numerical approach used by so many of those games, keeping a strong symbolic theme, should help alleviate the OCD stress. No use to anyone with OCD and arachnophobia, sadly, so we'll try other abstract games along the way.
Or just liking a number. I don't know, like I don't like the numbers 3 and 7. People think that I like 3 and 7. Hey, you really like those numbers, don't you? And I'm like, you know what? I don't. I don't like any numbers. There were no numbers that I liked, and 3 and 7 aren't numbers that I love. They're numbers that rule my life and control me and make it so that I can't live outside the boundaries of that little box. So I loathe 3 and 7, but I have to live by them because otherwise my anxiety grows to the point where I can't deal. And so I give in to the pressure, and I calculate and I see what's according to 3 and 7. And if I don't, the stress goes bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't let it go, and I don't stop talking. I don't stop talking about it. I don't stop thinking about it. And say if I tap on something, then it's the wrong number, and I walk away, and I try to think, don't go back and tap on it the right amount of times. Don't go back. But I don't stop thinking about it until I go back and I tap on the same place the right amount of times. It can't be wherever I've gone into the path. Like say I walk down the road and I've been trying not to go back and do it. But I have to do it the exact same place that I made the mistake. It rules my life. I do not like 3 and 7.
And Tourette's, if you are watching this video for the first time, I do have Tourette syndrome, so if the noises and special words.
I ended up liking a number for the first time in my life, actually, a few weeks ago. I mean, I was trying to figure out how to make it okay for the number 15 to be okay. And it wasn't. It wasn't okay with any rationality of exactly 3 and 7, or just 7 or just 3. I wasn't able to mathematically equate it, except that I was looking at this page in this magazine I was making. I made an entire magazine for Tourette Canada. And on page 15, there was this young man's picture that he drew, and I'm so endeared by this young man, and the fact that he's a sweet kid, and I liked his drawing, and I thought it was smart. And hi!
An abstract game with a chess-like approach, Onitama, pits 2 martial arts schools against each other for the honour of knocking plastic playing pieces over. Here, player moves are limited by options available on 2 cards. The activated card goes to the other player, and the replacement style comes in. This combination of card plus piece moved reduces the likelihood of AP, and anything that deals with AP should, we hope, reduce OCD.
Yeah, and I thought that there had to be some way to make it okay according to 3 and 7, just so that it could be acceptable, and I realized it already was. Because I liked the page 15 for some reason, because this kid drew it. And my OCD went a little bit overwired, and it was confused. My OCD was confused. I was confused as to how it was possible that I liked the number 15 when it couldn't equate. So that was kind of nice. And so I guess now I do have a number that I like. It's 15. But I don't talk about number 15 nearly as much as I do 3 and 7, which isn't to say that I don't find meaning in it. I mean, I find meaning in 15. I don't find meaning in 3 and 7. There's no meaning in this mess. This mess that I've made is just, hi. I don't believe that there's true meaning in this waste of time that I'm spending in my head and tapping on things and calculating. Is just no meaning. But I like the number 15.
I've left this game until the end. If you watch the sections with Melissa sitting on the floor, you'll see a copy of Odin's Ravens on the shelf to the left, underneath the skull. It's a straightforward racing game, and there's no great control over putting the path in place. These tiles are randomized and then set down. After that, there are cards in hand, which will advance the action, but those moves are relatively limited. Again, I'm hoping that the removal of numbers from the equation and the limited moves available, these things, combine to give Melissa a stress-free time.
Kicking myself in the butt over this. Hi, did you say that? Kick yourself in the wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, with nose in your. That lasted a little while.
Okay, another thing is that they try to make it fun. Like, how fun? Let's check to see if you have OCD. And it'll be a cool game. Let's play. Let's play.
Melissa's anger stems from encountering an online obsessive-compulsive disorder test, which she passed. She wondered why so many people were passing the OCD test with 100% ratings. So she took the test again and deliberately answered all the questions wrongly, giving her the all-clear on OCD. If your OCD manifests as ticking the wrong boxes in quizzes, you'd never know you had it, right? Maybe. Melissa took the test further and answered half of the questions in the expected manner. By this stage, the phrase answering the questions correctly must be placed inside inverted commas for reasons of cynicism, and more cynicism. After answering half the questions correctly, she scored 100% on having OCD, leading to the shaky conclusion that answering online quizzes shows you are capable of answering online quizzes with odds of 50-50, though there's only a 10% chance of that.